she doesn't really, she's not like, I mean, she's not against it, but she's not really that for herself. So
Mhm.
I'm just like glad that she's open to it.
Good. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
It
hard.
does make a difference.
Anyways, how are you?
Good. I started therapy this week.
Oh,
So,
yay. Okay,
yeah.
good. Do you
Yeah.
like your person?
I do. I've had problems in the past. You might have come across this where like the therapist talks more than me. And I'm like, okay, how are you supposed to learn anything that I need if you're telling me your stories? Like I love getting to know who I'm talking to, right? So if you have
Yeah.
relatable shit, like cool. But like I've had therapists where like maybe I talked for 10, 15 minutes of the hour.
Yeah.
And it's like, mm-mm. So she
No.
was very like 10-word sentence for a question set up and then talk, talk,
Yeah.
talk, talk. And then, so she was listening. She helped me realize some things that I'm like, okay,
Oh,
that's fair.
good.
So we're going to,
Work on it.
yeah.
I know. I mean, I haven't really had like too much experience with that, but there have been like where it's almost, yeah, they're trying to relate to me with their own, but like with their own stories, but it's not really working as far as like me learning anything about myself. So,
Right.
yeah, that's a tricky balance.
Yeah. Or even trying to like understand where something's coming from, right? Like she was like, oh, okay, so let's go back to this time. What was happening? What
Yeah.
happened to you? I'm like, okay, so you're actually trying to get to the bottom of what the fuck is going on. Thank
Right,
you.
right. And why I feel this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
really interesting. My
mhm.
therapist had me do a lifeline, or not a lifeline, like a timeline of my life, and like the
Oh,
stuff, the
wow.
positive stuff is on the top and the negative stuff is on the bottom. And I've never really, I don't think I've done that. And honestly, everything before 18, apart from like my parents' divorce, I was just like, I don't really care. And I didn't really think of anything. Cause honestly, I was just like, I feel like my life started, if I'm being honest, when I went to Berkeley.
Yeah, wow.
Like
Because like
my
you're
brain,
starting your
like,
own
yeah,
self kind of away
I
from your family.
guess. And like I just think that adulthood, like, no, I don't know, I just can't really think of anything like so amazing that I like think is worth mentioning before
Hmm.
18 apart from the divorce. And even then I'm just like, okay, whatever, it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was the last session she asked about the divorce because I had put that on my timeline or whatever. And she was like, "So how do you feel talking about this after the session?" And I was like, "Honestly, I feel so over it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about relationship with my dad anymore. I'm like really over it. But at the same
Mm,
time, I know that I need to if we're going to like move forward in what else I'm struggling with kind of thing."
yeah.
So,
But
but
sometimes it's okay to say like right now I'm done.
yeah.
Like give me a couple months to sit in this and stop talking about it and we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Like that's
Well,
okay.
and she pointed out, and yours might do this too, hopefully, but it's really interesting because she pointed out, like, she was asking me about the feeling, like, the feelings wheel. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was like, point to, like, just tell me some feelings words that were going on during X time, whatever. And I started kind of explaining, and it was just really interesting because she was like, well, right now you're like intellectualizing it. You're like kind of explaining the reasoning behind it and how you've processed it, but I'm asking you to say like a feelings word that was happening during that time. And I was like,
Mm,
"Oh, there's a difference."
yeah. Oh yeah.
But
I feel like we both kind of function in that realm. And we also like I got called out for saying, I know this isn't logical. She's like, okay, but like it's okay that it's not.
yeah.
like
Yeah.
but I think we both kind of think in that headspace.
I did too. For sure,
Yeah.
because we just try to make sense of it, but also like, especially for things that are like from the past, we're like, okay, but like I understand why it happened now. Let's move
Mhm.
forward. And so when you're asked about like just raw feelings in that moment, you're like, okay, I haven't. I guess I have to put thought into that, and also like I
Mhm.
don't want to care about that anymore. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. Yeah, when I look at you and I feel like a lot of times we're the be okay for everybody else people.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's something she pointed out is like it's okay to not think about what other people are experiencing in that moment so you can
Hmm.
experience it. Like
Yeah. I mean, I've
that's
definitely
okay.
gotten better at that. I don't really do that anymore, I feel.
That's
But
good.
that's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, that's definitely my problem.
Yeah. Well, that was a nice little moment.
Yeah, I love it.
I
Therapy,
know.
that was like a lightning round therapy.
I know. Well, I'm glad that we're all doing therapy now. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
very interested to see like what my mom thinks of this. And I told her, I was like, if you hate it or if you decide like you don't want to do this anymore, like I will say you should try to do at least two because the first one's probably just going to be like
Intake.
yeah, just like explaining what exactly happened and stuff. But sometimes, I mean, I will say, sometimes the first one, like that's why I knew that I wanted to stick with this therapist that I found because that first one was when she did asked me to do the timeline because most of the time
Mm,
with a first. Yeah, it is just intake. And it's just like, okay, tell me why you're here, blah, blah, blah. And then you're just like, did I just pay $60 or whatever the fuck my copay is or more? Like, just to explain myself of why I'm here, like, kind of like the basics of why I'm here. And it's just
right.
like, or like, talking about your insurance and your credit card and how often you want to come and all these things. And I'm just like, can we talk about what I'm actually here for? So when she talked about that, and kind of dived right in, I was like, oh, okay, dove right in, whatever. I was like, okay, I like this.
Yeah, I can get on
So,
board with this.
yeah.
That's good.
Okay, well, anyways, let me let me go
This is a
ahead.
this is a nice segue because we do have a very big therapy centralized Chris in this episode. So
That's true. That's very true. I know. I didn't even think of airing this, but I can.
we don't have to. I'm just like
It's a nice
we're in
moment.
it. Yeah, it's a nice little moment.
Yeah.
I like it. I think we need this. I think I definitely need more uh friend connection,
Yeah.
and I did mention that we didn't get into it with the therapist, but I think I've just disconnected on accident from so many people,
Mhm.
not because I don't love them or not because I don't want to be talking to them or anything, but I'm so tired.
Yeah. I
And I
know,
think
and it's a lot of effort to maintain.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, especially when like some of the most important people in my life don't live here.
Right.
Like most of my people are out of state. Some of
Yeah.
them are out of country, and it just makes it harder. And um, it just takes more effort, which I'm willing to put in. It's just I didn't realize until a certain point in the last like month or two where I'm like, I have not been trying hard enough.
Mm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah, because it does. I mean, it does take effort to maintain friendships or to start friendships or whatever it
mhm,
is. But I think something is like biting it off in chunks, though. It's like you don't have to have like 20 friends immediately or even 10. Just like
right.
starting with one and trying
Hmm.
to like, strengthen that one and then move forward from there is always helpful. And that's
Yeah.
something that I've been learning a lot this year. Like, I have really realized too that, like, I don't know, I feel like I always said that I had social not always, but I kind of thought for the last couple years that I had social anxiety because I was always just like,
Mm,
ugh, kind of dreading going to parties. And then I thought about it and I was like, I really only have that when there's more than 8 people, when there are people that I don't know if I'm going to know there or not.
mhm,
Or, and this is the part that I think was hardest for me, is when I have known these people, but I'm not necessarily comfortable with them being myself or like whatever.
mm,
So I feel like I might have to be on and
mhm.
trying to connect in a way that maybe isn't as natural. And like some people have to do that anyways for like your work or whatever. But
Yeah.
then when I started like hanging out with people that I don't feel that like flutter of like, oh God, I have to like put it on, put your face on. It really diminished the amount of close friendships I thought I had, and I think that is something to reckon with because
Mhm,
which and by reckon with, I mean, I'm good now that I've understood, like, the people that I do hang out with, it's usually 1 or 2 people at a time, 4 maximum, maybe 5, and they're people that I don't have social anxiety when I go hang out with, like, 2 of my close friends that I'm thinking of right now, like, I just, I can be myself and I know that we're going to have a good time regardless. And so I
mhm,
was like, oh, maybe it's not social anxiety. Maybe it's just like the anxiety of knowing that I don't feel as comfortable around them,
mhm.
which you and me, maybe, I don't know. Well, maybe you don't feel this way, but I feel guilty. I felt guilty that I felt that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I feel I
Because I was like, I
definitely.
should get along with everybody. I should just feel fine around everybody. Like everyone's great. And that's just like, they are great, but maybe they're not for me all the time.
Yeah, and I think we all are going to have those relationships in our life where we're putting on our like show face
Yeah.
instead because we're not at that comfort level with that person yet, and or we might not ever be, and that's okay, but we don't have to be spending our quality
Yeah.
set aside for self-care friend time with those people because you're not self-caring if you're putting that face on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And that I think is something as you get older, you're like, what am I spending my energy on?
mhm. Oh my gosh. Yeah, even just bringing Killy into my life is it's prioritized how I spend my free time. Like
Yeah.
stuff I used to do, like I'm now like, yeah, that's not important to me. You
Yeah.
know, like it
Totally.
other stuff takes precedence and I think yeah, like you're saying as you get older, the more tired you get,
Yeah.
the more
Well, and the other thing I think people have to understand is that sometimes it can get lonely because when you
Mhm.
decide like I want to spend my energy on the people that matter to me, like it does start to take down that amount of people that you feel more comfortable with. So you do have
Mhm.
to kind of understand that you might not have as many people around you at all times, but if you think about it, I was anxious around a lot of those people anyways, so like what was it really regardless?
Yeah.
Um, so that's really interesting. And then some people I think I talk to people, and maybe this is an introvert thing. I think this is where I get confused on if I'm an introvert because they say
Mhm.
introverts are like more interested in having like really deep conversations, getting to that deep
Mm.
conversation way quicker than extroverts because extroverts are like so comfortable with surface level
Right.
conversation and which again some people are just so fine with that and I just find it draining.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm completely drained being around people.
And I'm like good at it, I think, in a way. Like I ask
Mhm.
questions, I relate to people, but at the end I'm like, oh God, that was a
I
lot.
think a lot of people who would meet you, Holly, like just randomly, like in a coffee shop or in an improv class, they would automatically think you're an extrovert.
Yeah.
And I think once people get to know you, so it's really cool at work. We do a couple of these things, like we just did a Myers Briggs, and we go into how does that help the team work together that we all have different personality traits. It's really cool.
Mhm.
So, one of the things that the trainer said was just because you're labeled as an introvert doesn't mean you can't be an extrovert.
Right,
It
right,
just means that's not where you're comfortable living.
right.
And I think that like explains you perfectly, and I think me to a degree. I definitely don't do the extrovert as well as you do such a good job of engaging people and everything, but I think you are an introvert who is very functional as an extrovert. It's just not where you're comfortable living.
Yeah, thank you. I read this book called Quiet, The Power
Hmm.
of Introversion or something like I can't remember
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
called Quiet, but you should check it out. I mean, for me it was like kind of weird because or I don't know. I felt like since I had kind of worked through a lot of that, I already knew a lot of what was going on with myself or whatever. But yeah, I really think everybody, like you said, has both qualities or can have both
Hmm.
qualities. And yeah, I mean, with the whole work from home thing, I had, like I said, I had like a whole identity crisis. I was like, am I really extroverted? Because I hate being by myself the entire time. But I just wonder there are people I think that are cool being by themselves the entire time, but at the same time you do need connection whether
Hmm.
you want it or not. So I don't know. I really feel like I fall right in the middle with that. And there is that term called ambivert or whatever the hell, which like I don't know if that's been studied or who cares about that, but um yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I have both.
Yeah, which is
So
fair. You could lie right in the middle. It'd be interesting to take the test.
I know. I know. I don't know what the wait, what test?
The Myers-Briggs test.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like I took that like a million years ago.
Yeah, I definitely took it in like high school, but it
Mhm.
was really interesting to take again, like as an adult.
Yeah. I did the Enneagram
Ooh, what's that?
and it's like you're assigned a number given your person it's another personality test. And I think it's like you have different sides of you and then also it's how you relate to other people. And I took it
Mm.
a while ago and I got one number and then I took it more recently and I got another number and that next number seemed a little bit more in tune with what I thought about myself and maybe that's cuz I was older. So yeah, you're right. It probably would help to take it as like a self-actualized adult maybe.
Yeah. I think it also shifts. Like you're not necessarily a different person, but I think it can shift with your life experiences too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Cool. Well, I love that we had our little moment.
I know that was a nice moment. Loved it.
Me too.
Okay, well, are you ready for parks?
I am so ready for parks. I'm glad that you recorded this in case you want to use it. We don't have to. Like, this is just a nice time for us too.
Yeah.
But I did not start GarageBand until this moment, just so you know.
Okay. Yeah, no,
I didn't
you're
want to
good.
start it in the middle.